I watched Cousin Carol get dressed. I was very confused. "Excuse me," I said meekly, "but I think you forgot to put on your underpants. I mean, you're really going to ride on the back of a motorcycle in a skirt and no underpants?" Cousin Carol stared at me. I knew I was about to learn a new life lesson. "Look, it's not like I'm a guy. My balls are going to be flopping around, and it feels a lot better than riding an ordinary bike or a horse. Trust me." I offered up a silent prayer. "Please, God, make me as cool as my Cousin Carol." Luckily, it was Cousin Carol who became my role model and not anyone else in my family. My mother and Carol's mother, Aunt Miriam, shared a bitter animosity toward the world and terrible choices in men. They often spoke in Yiddish, so their husbands, who may as well have been Gentile, and us kids wouldn't understand. My mother once spewed at my father. My father demanded to know what she'd said. Aunt Miriam translated, "It's a curse. That means you should burn in hell forever and bake bagels you can't eat." When Cousin Carol finally took me under her wing, I was 16 and desperately needed to be remodeled, emerge from the square block of stone that was me, and become Venus de Milo. The lack of arms was a small sacrifice. I was 5'9". I slouched. I had a boyfriend with braces on his teeth and food stuck in them. And I wanted everyone to like me, so no one did, because my personality was so phenomenally vague. My transformation started with a suggestion from Cousin Carol that I dump my pastel wardrobe and wear all black. I needed to smudge mascara around my eyes for the raccoon effect, and no color on my lips, just white, like you'd look if you were dead. I glanced in the mirror and thought I looked amazing, just like Cousin Carol. Cousin Carol was enormously smart. Her favorite poet was the Pulitzer Prize-winning Wallace Stevens, who wrote the line, "The houses are haunted by white nightgowns. None are green or purple with green rings." I had no idea what he was talking about. And then there was haiku. "Snow in my shoe, abandoned sparrow's nest." I had no idea what they were talking about. Cousin Carol told me it would come to me. She said the same thing about art, Jasper Johns' flag. The guy literally put a frame around a flag and called it flag. Hell, I could do that. Jackson Pollock, if a kid slopped paint all over the place, you get yelled at. Jackson Pollock would get $5 million. I didn't get it. Cousin Carol told me I'd eventually appreciate that the thing behind the thing far outweighed the thing itself. I had no idea what she was talking about. Deciding I was still too inhibited in my new skin, Cousin Carol thought marijuana would help. She took me to a party to observe. When we got there, everyone was freaked out because the grass was laced with PCP. Some people wanted to jump out the window. Fortunately, the party was being held in a basement. Back at her place, Cousin Carol got out her stash of Maui Purple Seedless, no PCP involved, and rolled me a joint. I inhaled, I gagged, I inhaled again, and I told Cousin Carol I felt nothing. She said it hadn't kicked in. I sighed, dubious, and then suddenly my stomach felt very hollow, and I wanted to eat everything in her kitchen, including her garbage. Cousin Carol told me not to worry. My marijuana use would mature with experience. One of the most valuable lessons Cousin Carol taught me concerned connubial activities, i.e. doing the deed. This was back in the day when if you got pregnant, you had to go to Chinatown for an abortion with no guarantee medical instruments would be used. My new boyfriend, Aaron, didn't like condoms or pulling out at the last second technique, and I was too unnerved to go to my own doctor for a diaphragm. So Cousin Carol promised to lend me hers. And if it wasn't available that particular night, I'd have to give Aaron a blowjob to satisfy him. I wasn't very good at it. So Cousin Carol had me practice on a pickle until I migrated to a cucumber and became really adept. Cousin Carol was becoming ever more proud of me. She wasn't a big hugger, but she hugged me big time at the airport, where I was about to fly off to London for a 3-year course in dramaturgy. For some light airplane reading, she gave me Tolstoy and the Marquis de Sade. In England, Cousin Carol's influence stayed with me. I began to understand that the thing behind the thing was the important thing. I started to look at the world with unflagging interest, thanks to the hunger for knowledge she had instilled in me. I also found a boyfriend with a motorcycle. I sat behind him with my skirt flying up, and even though I hadn't graduated to no panties at all, the ones I wore were very skimpy. When I finally returned to the States after my 3-year absence, I was still in all black with white lipstick, looking like a corpse, and big sunglasses. And the first thing I did was to go looking for Cousin Carol. I didn't understand why her letter writing had been so scant. My aunt told me Cousin Carol was living in the suburbs, married, with 2 children. I was beyond dumbfounded. I arrived at Cousin Carol's nondescript house, sat with her in her nondescript living room, and saw that it was gone, that rebel spirit. Life had worn her down, worn her out. This amazing human being who had liberated me from my constraints turned me into the version of myself I wanted to be, teaching me about the thing behind the thing, and that the unpredictability of life was not something to be avoided, but a wonderful way to keep surprising myself. She smiled. I miss my former Cousin Carol like crazy. Her smile was small and sad, trying to tell me something in the silence. I knew what it was, and so I promised myself not to waver, but to carry on the gifts and the wisdom she had bestowed on me. It was up to me now to mentor someone, open their eyes, their mind, and make them cool. Maybe my younger cousin, Janie.